Emily clutched the worn leather leash tightly, her small fingers barely able to hold on as Max, her golden retriever, trotted calmly beside her. The courthouse stood tall and imposing, its grey stone walls etched with years of stories, battles, and secrets. It wasn't just a building to Emily, it was the place where her entire world might change forever. Her mother's hand rested gently on her shoulder, grounding her in the whirlwind of emotions that swirled inside. They moved slowly up the wide steps, surrounded by a crowd of strangers whose quiet whispers filled the air like an unseen storm. Emily's heart pounded fiercely, each beat echoing the questions she didn't dare voice. Inside, the courthouse was cold and sterile. The sharp smell of polished wood mixed with the faint scent of old paper and nervous energy. Emily's eyes darted around the room, taking in the rows of wooden benches filled with solemn faces, some curious, some judgmental. Cameras and reporters crowded near the back, their lenses trained on the defendant's table where her father sat. Her father. The word echoed in her mind, heavy and confusing. He sat there wearing a dark suit that seemed too stiff for him. His hands were clasped tightly on the table, knuckles white, betraying the calm mask on his face. Emily's breath caught as she noticed his eyes. Tired, worried, but searching. For hers, a silent message passed between them. "I'm still here, we'll get through this." Emily squeezed Max's leash again, grateful for the dog's steady presence. Max sensed her unease, pressing close to her side, his soft fur a comforting shield against the cold harshness of the courtroom. She lowered her eyes to meet his, drawing strength from his warm brown gaze. The judge's gavel slammed down, demanding silence and attention. Emily's mother took a deep breath and whispered, "Stay strong, sweetheart." But Emily wasn't sure if she believed those words herself. The courtroom buzzed with legal terms and voices she barely understood. Evidence, testimony, guilty, not guilty. Each word felt like a puzzle piece she couldn't fit together. Why was her father there? Why did so many people want to decide his fate? The questions twisted inside her like a storm. Emily's mind flashed back to happier times, the laughter that once filled their small home, the bedtime stories her father told, the way he always made her feel safe. Now those memories felt fragile, as if they could shatter with one word from the judge. Her eyes drifted back to the front. The prosecutor stood, speaking with sharp confidence. Emily tried to catch the meaning behind the words, but her focus kept drifting to her father's face. She searched for any sign of hope, any crack in the wall of silence around him. The defense attorney was next. His voice was calm and steady, weaving a story of innocence and doubt. Emily clung to his words, willing them to be true. The courtroom seemed endless, each minute stretching longer than the last. Throughout it all, Max remained by Emily's side, a silent guardian. When tears threatened to fall, Max nudged her hand with his wet nose, grounding her in the moment. She squeezed, his head whispering, "Thank you, Max. I need you now more than ever." As the session neared its end, Emily's stomach churned with fear and anticipation. The judge's face was unreadable, like a stone mask hiding what he truly thought. Emily tried to steady her breath, to prepare for whatever words would come next. Her mother leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever happens, we're together." Emily nodded, tears threatening to spill but held back by a fierce determination. She wasn't just a little girl in a courtroom. She was a daughter fighting for her family, clinging to hope in a place where hope felt fragile. The judge cleared, his throat signaling the start of the final moment, the sentencing. Emily's hands tightened on Max's leash, her world hanging in the balance. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence, every eye fixed on the judge as he prepared to speak. Emily sat frozen, Max resting quietly at her feet, but alert, sensing the tension in the air. Her mother's hand found hers again, offering a fragile lifeline. The judge's voice was steady, but carried a weight that pressed down on Emily's chest. After careful consideration of all evidence presented, the court finds the defendant guilty as charged. The words hit Emily like a cold wave, sharp and unforgiving. Her breath caught, and her fingers tightened around Max's leash so hard, her knuckles whitened. She glanced at her father, hoping for some sign that this was a mistake, that somehow it wasn't true. But his face was stoic, unreadable, and Emily felt a sharp pang of loneliness. It was as if a glass wall had been lowered between them, thick and cold. The judge continued, "The sentence will be 10 years in a state correctional facility. This court must uphold justice for the victims and the community." Emily blinked, rapidly, trying to hold back tears. 10 years. 10 years without her father. The number spun in her mind, impossible to grasp. How could life go on like this? How could the man who tucked her into bed, who laughed with her at silly jokes, be locked away for so long? Around her, whispers spread like wildfire. Some faces showed sympathy, others suspicion. The weight of judgment seemed to settle on Emily herself, as if the court's verdict extended beyond the defendant to the family left behind. Her mother pulled her close, whispering soothing words, but Emily could barely hear. She felt numb, trapped in a storm of emotions: fear, sadness, confusion, and anger. Max pressed his warm body against her leg, his silent comfort the only anchor in the swirling chaos. Emily's eyes found her father again. For a moment he looked directly at her. There was a flicker of something: regret, hope, guilt. She couldn't tell. His lips parted slightly, but no words came. As the bailiff called for the defendant to stand, Emily felt tears spill over, but she forced herself to blink them back. She wanted to be strong, to be brave like her mother told her, but her heart felt like it was breaking. Her father rose slowly, shackled at the wrists. His movements were stiff, controlled. As he was led away, his eyes never left Emily's. That silent exchange became etched in her memory, the promise that he would fight, that he loved her. The courtroom began to empty, but Emily remained seated, clinging to Max's leash like it was a lifeline. Her mother held her tightly, whispering, "We'll get through this together." Outside the courtroom, the sunlight felt harsh and cold, cutting through the haze of grief that wrapped around Emily's thoughts. Reporters crowded nearby, shouting questions and snapping photos. Emily felt exposed, vulnerable. She pulled Max close and hurried away, seeking the quiet refuge of a nearby bench. As she sat down, Max rested his head on her lap, his gentle warmth a balm to her shattered spirit. Emily stroked his fur, tears finally falling freely now. She wondered how the world could seem so unfair, how a sentence could tear her family apart so completely. Her mother joined her, sitting beside her with a tired smile. "We'll find a way to fight back," she said softly. "There's still hope." But Emily didn't feel hopeful, not yet. Her mind replayed every moment of the trial, every witness, every argument. Had something been missed? Could there be another truth hidden beneath the surface? Max suddenly lifted his head, ears perked toward the courtroom entrance. His tail gave a small wag, an unusual burst of energy in the heavy air. Emily looked up, curious despite herself. For a moment, the dog's behavior seemed odd, almost like he sensed something no one else did. Emily's mother noticed too, but before either could say more, the bailiff approached them with a serious expression. "There's something you should see," he said quietly, holding out a small folded piece of paper. Emily took it hesitantly, unfolding the crumpled note. Her eyes widened as she read the few lines scribbled hastily, words that hinted at a secret witness, evidence that had never been presented in court. Her heart fluttered with a spark of something she hadn't felt all day: hope. Max nudged her, hand as if urging her to hold on, and suddenly the world didn't feel quite so dark. Emily's fingers trembled as she held the crumpled note, the words scrawled in haste yet heavy with promise. The courtroom, once a place of finality and despair, now felt charged with sudden energy, a fragile crack in the wall of certainty that had imprisoned her family. Max, usually calm and gentle, stood up on his hind legs and barked sharply toward the corner of the courtroom near the judge's bench. His voice echoed in the sudden silence, drawing surprised glances from everyone present. People shifted in their seats, whispering, their eyes following Max's focused gaze. "Is the dog sensing something?" a lawyer murmured, half joking but with an edge of curiosity. Max wasn't just making noise. He moved closer to the judge's bench, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. Then, with a quick nudge of his snout, he pawed at the floor near a bench where no one had noticed anything. Unusual. The court clerk, intrigued, bent down and reached under the bench. His fingers brushed against a small folded envelope hidden behind a loose panel. He pulled it out carefully, holding it up for all to see. Murmurs turned to gasps as the envelope was handed to the judge. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. What was this, another clue? A piece of evidence forgotten in the rush of the trial? The judge, his expression serious but now tinged with surprise, motioned for the courtroom to settle. He carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. All eyes were on him as he read aloud. To the court. There is evidence that was overlooked in the trial of the defendant. I am willing to testify and provide proof that may change the outcome of this case. Please contact me. A witness. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Emily's mother gripped her arm tightly, her eyes wide with shock and hope. Emily's gaze flickered between the note and Max, whose tail wagged gently, proud and alert. The judge's voice cut through the chatter, commanding attention. This new information is serious. In the interest of justice, this court will pause the sentencing and order a thorough reinvestigation of the evidence. Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The weight that had crushed her moments ago felt lighter, like a door had cracked open, letting in a glimmer of light. Her father, still seated, looked at her with a flicker of something new. Hope. His eyes met hers, and for the first time since, the verdict, a faint smile touched his lips. The courtroom emptied quickly after the judge's announcement, but Emily stayed seated for a moment, her fingers still clutching Max's leash. Max lay at her feet, his head resting gently against her shoe as if sensing the significance of the moment. Emily's mother knelt beside her, voice steady but filled with emotion. This could change everything, Emily. We have to believe it. Will. The three of them walked slowly out of the courthouse, stepping into the cool afternoon light. The weight of uncertainty still hung in the air, but hope was there now, a fragile, precious thing. As they made their way to the car, Emily looked back toward the courthouse steps. The building, once a symbol of fear and loss, now seemed like a place of possibility, a place where truth might finally be heard. That night, Emily sat by Max's side, the dog curled warmly against her. Her mind raced with questions and plans. Who was this mysterious witness? What had they seen? And could their testimony really change everything? Her mother sat beside her, quietly making calls to the defense lawyer and investigators, eager to follow this new lead. Max, as if sensing the weight of their hopes, rested his head on Emily's knee and gave a soft, reassuring bark. Emily smiled through her tears and whispered, "Thank you, Max. You're more than just a dog. You're our hero." As the house settled into quiet, Emily's heart felt a flicker of courage. The fight was far from over, but now she had something to hold on to. Justice wasn't just a word anymore, it was a chance. And with Max by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. The next morning dawned with a restless energy in the small household. Emily woke early, her mind swirling with thoughts of the mysterious witness and the hidden note. Max, sensing her unease, nudged her awake with a soft lick on the cheek. She smiled tiredly and rubbed his ears, thankful for his steady presence. At breakfast, Emily's mother was already on the phone, speaking quietly but urgently with their defense attorney. The possibility of reopening the case had injected new life into their fight for justice, but there was still so much uncertainty. Emily wanted to help, but she felt small and powerless. After school, Emily and Max returned to the courthouse. The building didn't feel as intimidating today. It almost seemed like an ally. Emily's mother had arranged a meeting with the defense lawyer and the lead investigator to discuss the note and the mysterious witness. Inside the quiet meeting room, the defense lawyer spread out several documents on the table. "This note could be the key to proving your father's innocence," he said, looking at Emily with a reassuring smile. "We're going to track down this witness and see what they have to say." Emily nodded, feeling a cautious hope blossom inside her. Max sat quietly by her feet, his tail wagging slightly, as if he understood the importance of this moment. Later, the lawyer and investigator left to follow up on the lead, leaving Emily and her mother to wait. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each minute filled with anxious anticipation. Suddenly Max perked up and tugged on his leash, pulling Emily toward the courthouse entrance. His nose twitched, and he seemed fixated on something in the hallway. Curious, Emily followed as Max moved purposefully toward the judge's bench, where he had discovered the envelope the day before. The polished wood gleamed under the bright courtroom lights, but Max's attention was drawn to a small crack beneath the bench. With a careful paw, Max reached into the crack and pulled out a folded piece of paper that no one had noticed before. Emily gasped and picked it up. The paper was old and worn, but the handwriting was clear enough to read. It was another letter, this one more detailed. To whom it may concern, I witnessed the events leading to the incident involving the defendant. I was too afraid to come forward before, but I can no longer remain silent. The truth is different from what has been presented. Please give me a chance to explain. An eyewitness. Emily's heart raced. 2 notes. This was more than coincidence. Someone was trying to bring the truth to light, and Max had found it. She showed the letter to her mother, whose eyes filled with tears of relief and determination. This changes everything, her mother whispered. Soon, the defense team called for an emergency hearing to present the new evidence to the judge. The courtroom filled quickly, reporters buzzing with excitement over the unexpected turn of events. Emily sat quietly, Max resting his head on her lap, as the judge listened carefully to the defense lawyer's arguments. The letters were presented as crucial new evidence that warranted reopening the case. The judge nodded thoughtfully. Given the new information, I hereby order a stay of sentence and a reinvestigation of all evidence related to this case. The courtroom erupted in murmurs and whispers, but Emily felt only a steady calm wash over her. For the first time since this nightmare began, she believed in the possibility of justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for comments, but Emily and her mother walked away in silence. Max trotted faithfully beside them, his tail wagging with quiet pride. That evening, Emily sat at her desk, the 2 letters spread out before her. Max lay curled at her feet, the comforting warmth reminding her that no matter how dark the days ahead might be, she was not alone. Her mother sat nearby, making plans with the lawyer for the next steps. The path was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. This dog, her faithful Max, had become their unexpected hero. With every wag of his tail, Emily's hope grew stronger. They were going to fight. They were going to uncover the truth. And maybe, just maybe, they would bring her father home. Days passed like slow-moving shadows. The reinvestigation began in earnest, and Emily felt both hopeful and restless. Each morning she woke with a mix of anticipation and fear. Would the mysterious witness really show up? Could their testimony undo the damage done by the trial? Max remained at her side through it all, a steady presence in the storm of uncertainty. His gentle eyes seemed to understand her worries without her needing to say a word. One afternoon, the doorbell rang sharply, interrupting the quiet of their home. Emily's mother answered, and Emily watched from the living room window as a nervous-looking woman stepped inside. The woman's hands trembled slightly as she sat down, glancing around the room before finally meeting Emily's mother's eyes. "Thank you for seeing me," she said softly. I'm the witness." Emily's breath caught. This was the moment. The truth could finally be spoken. The woman introduced herself as Claire, a local resident who had lived near the scene of the incident involving Emily's father. For weeks, Claire had watched from a distance, fearful of getting involved, but guilt and conscience had finally pushed her forward. "I was scared," Claire admitted, her voice shaky. "I didn't want to get tangled up in something so big, but I couldn't live with the silence anymore." She described the day in question, her eyes shining with sincerity. "I saw what really happened. Your father was not the person they made him out to be. There was someone else, someone who caused the trouble, but no one listened to me before." Emily felt a flicker of hope grow brighter inside her. The woman's words were like a ray of light cutting through the shadows. Her mother exchanged a look with Claire, then nodded firmly. "We'll help you tell your story the right way. We need to make sure the court hears the truth." In the days that followed, Claire worked closely with the defense lawyer and investigators. Her detailed account added pieces to the puzzle that had been missing all along. Witnesses who had been silent before began to come forward, encouraged by Claire's courage. Meanwhile, Emily found herself spending more time outside, walking with Max through the quiet neighborhood streets. The dog seemed to sense the changing tides, his tail wagging more often, his energy brighter. One afternoon, as they passed the park near their home, Max suddenly stopped, ears perked. He sniffed the air and then bounded toward a group of children, playing nearby. Emily called after him, but Max had already found what or who he was looking for. A young boy stood frozen, looking startled as Max gently nudged his hand. Emily approached cautiously. The boy's eyes flicked nervously to the dog, then to Emily. "Do you know something about what happened that day?" Emily asked softly. The boy hesitated, then nodded. "I saw it all. I didn't want to get involved, but I'm not afraid anymore." Emily's heart quickened. This boy might hold another key to the truth. Back at home, Emily shared the news with her mother. Together they called the defense team, who arranged for the boy to give a statement, under protection. The walls around the case were finally starting to crumble. That evening, as Emily sat beside Max, her thoughts drifted to her father, waiting somewhere trapped behind cold bars, unaware that the tide was beginning to turn. Max rested his head on her lap, his warm eyes full of understanding. Emily whispered, "We're going to bring him home, Max, I promise." Outside the night was still, but inside Emily's heart a quiet fire had ignited. The fight for justice was no longer just a hope, it was becoming a reality. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind. Claire's testimony and the boy's statement opened new doors for Emily's father's defense. The community that had once quietly whispered about the case began to pay attention, many now questioning what had really happened. Emily and her mother met regularly with the defense lawyer, absorbing every new detail with cautious optimism. But with hope came anxiety. Would the court believe this new evidence? Would the truth be enough to overcome the weight of the previous conviction? One rainy afternoon, Emily was home alone with Max. Her mother was at a meeting with the lawyer, and Emily sat by the window watching raindrops race down the glass. Max suddenly stood, ears pricked and body tense. Without warning, he darted toward the front door, barking sharply. Startled, Emily scrambled to open the door. Outside, a man stood in the pouring rain, soaked but determined. He introduced himself as Daniel, a former employee of the company where the incident had occurred. "I heard about the new investigation," Daniel said urgently. "There's something you need to know, something that could change everything." Inside, Emily offered him a towel as he explained his story. Daniel revealed that the real cause of the incident had been covered up, corporate negligence and a reckless supervisor who had been blamed on purpose. "I tried to speak up back then," Daniel said quietly, "but they silenced me. Now, with the case reopening, I want to set things right." Emily's heart pounded. This new information was explosive. It wasn't just a case of mistaken guilt. It was a deliberate betrayal, a web of lies spun to protect the powerful. She called her mother and the defense lawyer immediately. Together, they arranged for Daniel to provide a sworn statement and cooperate with investigators. As the defense team dug deeper, evidence began to surface. Emails, reports, and testimonies that exposed the truth behind the incident. Slowly, the narrative shifted from blame to accountability. Emily watched the process unfold with growing relief, but also a fierce determination. She knew this was only the beginning of a long battle, and every step forward was hard-won. One evening, as she sat with Max in the quiet of their living room, her mother joined her with a smile. "The defense team is confident the case will be reopened officially. There's talk of a new trial." Emily felt tears prick her eyes, tears of relief, of hope, of anticipation. Max rested his head on her lap, sensing the moment's significance, but just as the family began to breathe easier, an unexpected knock at the door shattered the calm. A police officer stood on the doorstep, holding an official document. Emily's mother opened it and her face paled. "It's a subpoena," she said. "Someone is trying to stop this from moving forward." Emily's heart sank. The fight for justice was far from over. The shadows that had tried to hide the truth were still reaching out, trying to silence them. But with Max by her side and the growing support around them, Emily felt ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would stand strong. They would fight. They would uncover the truth. No matter the cost, and no dog, no witness, no threat could stop them now. The subpoena in Emily's mother's hands felt like a cold weight pressing down on the small family. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a warning, a signal that their fight for justice was being challenged by unseen forces determined to keep the truth buried. Emily stared at the document, her fingers trembling. The legal battle had taken a dark turn. Someone, somewhere, was trying to intimidate them into silence. Her mother's voice was steady but fierce. "They think they can scare us off, but they don't know who they're dealing with." Emily nodded, trying to push down the fear that bubbled inside her. Max sensed the tension, his ears twitching and eyes alert as he paced the room. Over the next days, the family's life shifted into a high gear. The defense lawyer reassured them that subpoenas and threats were common tactics in cases like this. "We have the law on our side, and we have truth," he said firmly. "That's what matters." Emily tried to focus on school and the small moments of normalcy, but her mind was consumed with worry for her father and the trial ahead. One evening, Max acted strangely again. He growled low and moved toward the back door, refusing to be distracted. Emily followed, unlocking the door to the backyard. The night was cool and dark, but something in Max's posture made her cautious. Suddenly, Max's nose caught a scent, and he barked sharply at the bushes near the fence. Emily's heart jumped. She approached carefully and found a small, worn envelope tucked into the branches. Inside was a note, hastily written. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it. Some truths are better left buried." Emily's breath caught. The threat was real and dangerously close. She showed the note to her mother and the lawyer, who immediately contacted the police. The investigation into the threats began, but Emily knew the message was clear. Someone powerful wanted the case shut down. Despite the danger, Emily felt a fire ignite within her. She wasn't going to back down. Not now, not ever. The day of the hearing arrived. Emily, her mother, and Max walked into the courthouse together, their resolve unshaken. Inside, the judge listened carefully to the new evidence and testimonies. Claire and Daniel's statements had exposed the truth, and the court recognized the need for a full retrial. Emily's father sat quietly in the back, eyes fixed on his daughter. A faint smile touched his lips as their eyes met. The judge finally spoke. "In light of the new evidence and the ongoing investigation, the previous verdict is set aside. A new trial will be scheduled." Relief washed over Emily like a wave, but she knew the road ahead was still long and uncertain. After the hearing, Emily knelt beside Max and hugged him tightly. "You did this, Max. You found the proof and you kept us going." Max wagged his tail, his eyes shining with loyalty and love. As they left the courthouse, Emily's mother whispered, "We're closer than ever, Emily. Justice will come." But Emily glanced back, watching the faces in the crowd, some filled with support, others with suspicion. The fight was far from over, but with Max and the truth on their side, Emily felt ready to face whatever came next. The day of the new trial arrived with a tense atmosphere hanging over the courthouse. Months of preparation, gathering evidence and testimonies had led to this moment. Emily felt a mix of nerves and determination, but Max's calm presence at her side steadied her heart. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, neighbors, and supporters filled the seats, eager to witness the long-awaited chapter in this story. Emily's father sat in the defendant's chair, looking more hopeful than he had in months. His eyes met Emily's across the room, sharing a silent promise that they would get through this together. The trial began with the defense presenting the new evidence. Claire's detailed eyewitness testimony painted a vivid picture of the true events, backed by Daniel's insider information about the company's negligence and the attempts to cover up the truth. The prosecution, caught off guard by the fresh evidence, struggled to maintain their earlier narrative. Witnesses who had been silenced before now spoke openly, revealing the pressure and fear they'd faced. Throughout the trial, Max remained quietly at Emily's feet, a symbol of loyalty and courage. Day after day, the courtroom saw the truth unfold, truths that had been hidden beneath layers of fear and deception. Emily's father listened intently as the defense dismantled the false accusations one by one. With each piece of evidence, hope grew stronger in Emily's heart. On the final day, the judge addressed the courtroom with a solemn voice. After reviewing all the evidence and testimonies, this court finds the defendant not guilty of the charges against him. The conviction is overturned, and he is hereby released. A wave of emotion swept through the room. Emily felt tears streaming down her face as relief and joy flooded her. Her father rose, stepping toward her with open arms. They embraced tightly. Two souls reunited after a long, painful journey. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. Reporters clamored to capture the moment, but Emily's focus was solely on her father and Max. "Thank you, Max," she whispered, kneeling to hug the dog who had become their hero. Her father smiled, his voice filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you and Max enough. You never gave up on me." Emily shook her head, tears shining in her eyes. "We're family. That's what matters." In the weeks that followed, their lives slowly began to heal. The community that had once doubted now celebrated the family's resilience and courage. Emily's father returned home, free at last, and together they faced the future with hope. Max became a local hero. His keen senses and unwavering loyalty had changed everything. And though the scars of the past remained, the family knew they had found something stronger: truth, justice, and the unbreakable bond that held them together. As Emily sat on the porch one evening, Max curled at her feet. She looked up at the sky. Stars twinkled brightly, and she whispered, "A quiet thanks for the dog who had saved them all." Their journey had been long and hard, but now a new chapter was beginning, one filled with promise, love, and the courage to face whatever came next.